What got me started on a life of crime, which is what my mother thought my youthful interest in jazz implied, was a case of the measles when I was 15. In those days, the early 1930s, when you had the measles, they put you in a darkened room and you were not allowed to read. And so my mother let me have the old family radio, and I lay there wide awake in the night, picking up those strange sounds in the night. Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, Cab Calloway, Earl Hines, Fletcher Henderson, and all I knew was what I heard, and what I heard gave a thrust to my life which has never left it. I have learned more from them than I did in any classroom, and their art has given me a faith in creativity and in life itself that no pulpit has ever offered. For millions of readers in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, Ralph J. Gleason's personal jazz commentaries were a powerful introduction to America's most vibrant musical scene, a way of appreciating a challenging new art form through the affectionate eyes of a true disciple. Co-founder of the Monterey Jazz Festival, co-founder of Rolling Stone magazine, contributing writer and editor of Downbeat magazine, the world's first syndicated jazz columnist at the San Francisco Chronicle for over a quarter century, Gleason's literary exploration of jazz had only one purpose. He wanted people to dig the music.
The thing that a modern jazz musician does, and which you should really keep in mind when you see him in concerts or see him in jazz clubs, is somewhat similar to looking at a poet standing in the middle of a supermarket and improvising poetry. They are called upon by the discipline of this art form to go into public places and to spontaneously create music.
Life's a game of chance, and you're one of the minor players.
Unlike a poet, unlike the writer of a novel, unlike a painter, they have no opportunity to take this product that they have created and reform it and correct the mistakes that they might have made or change the way in which they approach it. What they do is done for all time right then when they do it. This is a very unique thing about jazz, and it's one of the things that gives it a particular quality of aliveness that makes it one of the most interesting and vital of all contemporary art forms.
In 1959, Gleason took the unprecedented step of ushering jazz from smoky late-night clubs to the blue-gray flickerings of early television broadcasting, creating, producing, and hosting Jazz Casual, the first nationally televised series devoted entirely to jazz. On a stage left intentionally barren, Gleason invited his friends to fill the studio space with spontaneous innovations of pure jazz, and his friends conjured up a special magic. John Coltrane offered his only television appearance in North America. Count Basie visited on his own birthday, improvising with a special hand-picked quartet. Artists agreed to appear on Jazz Casual who would have otherwise avoided the camera's glare, because Gleason allowed them the freedom to play what they wanted for as long as they wanted, mixing the music with insight and celebration.
There are very few people that I consider qualified to judge whether someone is a jazz player or a jazz singer. Now, you happen to be one of the few people that I feel is fully qualified.
You could cancel off the show for that.
Am I a jazz singer?
Mel.
Am I a jazz singer?
You are to me, but I've got a very good friend who thinks you aren't.
When Sonny gets blue, she breathes a sigh of sadness like the wind that stirs the trees.
If you'd like to buy my wares, follow me and climb the stairs. Love
What better definition of a jazz singer could we possibly have than Carmen McRae? Earl Father Hines is really the father of jazz piano and one of the most important musicians who has ever played this music. And today you really can't play jazz piano without playing a little bit of Earl Father Hines.
Thanks for that wonderful introduction.
Well, you know, I mean it, and you deserve it, and we all know this.
Of the original 31 episodes of Jazz Casual produced, 28 still survive, having been locked away in a vault since their first and only broadcast some 3 decades ago. Now, digitally remastered, these rare treasures capture the pure essence of the jazz experience. By bringing together these glimpses of the great creative artists from the earliest right down to the most modern jazz, I would like to assist in placing all of them on the broad cultural stage in their proper perspective. This is a dedication to those musicians for all the great moments, the magnificent highs of listening, for all I have learned from them, my true teachers, and above all, for their clear instruction in how to live. Ralph J. Gleason's Jazz Casual series, more than 24 historic masterpiece performances from the titans of modern jazz, unseen in over 30 years and available for the first time ever on home video. The Ralph J. Gleason Jazz Casual series, only on Rhino Home Video.
This is Jazz Casual. I'm Ralph Gleason. We've been listening to the music of Sonny Rollins and Company with Jim Hall on guitar, Bob Cranshaw on bass, Ben Riley on drums. Sonny Rollins, the tenor saxophonist, is one of the true virtuoso jazz soloists in modern jazz, and we're going to have a chance now to talk to him. Sonny, when you pick tunes that you're going to use in your group and on which you're going to improvise, what kind of things do you look for?
Well, the rhythm, I would say, is really the most important aspect of jazz, and usually the melodic content of a tune is of secondary importance in that we can take any tune and really put a jazz rhythm to it, and it would sound very acceptable and very good.
Do you ever become intrigued by a tune because of the melody?
Oh, very definitely, yeah. Of course, when you have melody and rhythm together, why then on that third point you really get the beautiful manifestation of whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. Do you sometimes hear someone play a tune and then think about it yourself before you decide to use it? Think about things you might do with it?
Uh-huh. Now, exactly what do you mean by that?
Well, do you hear a song played by another group and decide that you like it and you might like to try your hand with it? If you do this, do you then consider the song yourself before you play it and think about the changes in it and the tune?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, of course, every time I hear a song, I hear it harmonically, melodically, and rhythmically at the same time. Yeah. So I usually hear all of these things when I listen to a song, and of course, then I just about gauge the potentialities and the possibilities for applying it to our particular group.
Do you do the same tunes, when you do the same tunes, different performances, do they follow the same structure?
Usually, although there's so much difference in the solos themselves, that it's hard to say that it follows the same structure. As you know, jazz is such an extemporaneous thing that we do a great deal of improvising right on the spot. But we usually maintain a framework within which all this is done. So it's pretty well compact, and the form is there. But within that form, of course, it's very free, you know.
So that if you did something as you were soloing, this might change the whole way the group would perform the rest of the tune?
Yes, it would. Yes, very definitely.
Will that work back then as a feedback to you?
Very definitely. And we get ideas as we go along. And even though we might play the same song, we might just put a little inflection here and inflection there, which we might pick up from one of the other guys in the group. And this would change the whole color, so to speak, of the song. And of course, this makes it very nice to play because it's a different experience each time, you know.
But you still have little places where you do the same kind of things at various points in a performance, do you?
Yes, definitely, definitely. We have places where we mark, I guess they could be called sort of like landmarks along the way.
Yeah.
And of course, this discipline enables us to be free and to do things freely, you know.
Do you ever vary the tempos in which you play tunes from performance to performance?
Occasionally, although we usually have a set idea of what would be the best tempo for any particular song, and there might be very slight, not too much. It might go a little bit faster, a little slower, but by and large, I think we do everything about the same thing that we agree upon.
How about keys? Do you ever change the key?
Yeah, we do that. And we're just beginning to do a lot more of that, to play in keys which we might not have played in too much before. So now we play the same song and we're beginning to play it in different keys. And of course, each key gives it a different sound. Once again, it makes it a little different. The same notes in a different key would produce a different color, you know.
This makes you think about it in a new way then.
Definitely, yeah.
It produces new versions then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Sonny, many young musicians today, it seems to me, have lost sight of the fact that jazz has had a tradition going back several generations. When you came along as a tenor saxophone player, who were the saxophone players in which you were interested?
Well, I was quite interested in Coleman Hawkins, and he was my main guy that I liked. Of course, I still do admire him. And I liked Lester Young, and I liked quite a few guys. In fact, I liked most guys that were playing. Because I just like Hawk more than the others because he happened to be my particular idol, so to speak.
These older musicians have had an influence on you? And
Definitely. A great many of them helped the young guys like I was at that time. I'm an old man now, but at that time I was helped a great deal by guys like Ben, you know, and Hawk and so forth, and they gave me a lot of good hints which I use now. And the same way I would like to have a chance to help some of the young kids coming along, you know.
Well, of course, one of the greatest ways you can help them is by continuing to play the way you're playing, be an inspiration to them.
Great, I'm glad you said that.
What are you going to play for us now, Sonny?
Well, I think we're going to do a short version of God Bless the Child.
Billie Holiday.
Billie Holiday, yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much. We look forward to hearing that.
Great.
We've been talking to Sonny Rollins, the tenor saxophone player, and we've learned some of the ways in which jazz musicians think about improvisation and how they use, in Sonny's words, rhythm and melody and harmony in their approach to a performance. And Sonny has also told us something about the traditions of jazz, and now we're going to hear him and his group play God Bless the Child.
Sonny Rollins has been giving us
An example of spontaneous improvisation in jazz on Jazz Casual. And now back to Sonny Rollins for some more.